Pokémon Legends Arceus looks to be a massive jump into a different direction for the Pokémon franchise, and for the Pokémon mainline video games in general. But something is odd about these games. There is an aspect that people are sort of skipping over that I think is worth going into and worth covering. So that is why I want to tell you why Pokémon Legends Arceus isn't the game you think it is. So the first thing I have to, of course, point out is that this game is an open world game and comes with a bit of a problem in terms of development, as it is a totally different approach to the game development of Pokémon. See, this game isn't our standard Pokémon journey of get a starter in your town, beat the evil team, defeat all the gyms, and conquer the Elite Four to become the champion. The Elite Four and the gyms don't exist yet in this game. The concept of them doesn't exist in this era just yet, so those things can't be there, which means the formula for Pokemon gets broken down straight away. This in itself makes it a game that is going to be drastically different from what most people expect, which is why I want to go into this subject, why this game isn't something you should be expecting to be your standard Pokemon journey. So, the game will also not be full of features. This is something that we have had over the years, gotten used to, with the reduction of features and removal of features from Pokemon games, but these games won't have any of these features, like the Battle Frontier and contests and all these things, because once again, these concepts were only developed further into the history of the Pokemon world. Even small things like a Pokemon PC, well, we need Bill for that. Pokemon Natures and Pokemon EVs and IVs will not be part of these games most likely, as those things are all connected to each other. Man, even Pokemon Centers and Pokemarts won't be around the way we know of them. So, as the concept of being a Pokemon trainer isn't even a thing either just yet, what is it really that you are then? If you're not a Pokemon trainer, then really what are you? Well, let me tell you, you're an adventurer. Yes, that is what you are. You're someone meant to go on a solo journey to create the first ever Pokédex. That is what this whole game is about, and that is what this game will try to approach. They will try to approach Pokemon from a totally different perspective, imagining what Pokemon would have looked like if those other aspects that we're so used to had yet to become part of the world these games are set within. And that is what these games are. They're a single-player experience where you won't be able to head online for battling and trading. These games are made for the players who want to explore and learn about the history of Pokemon, and those who want to have an adventure with less of a directed path and more of a freedom to explore, discover, and catch a bunch of Pokemon and things you didn't know about. This is why, based on the trailer, we can tell that these games will clearly aim to make the Pokemon more expressive and more in tune with their environment, making this game feel far more realistic. Like the Pokemon will actually interact with their environment, and our job will be to learn about these things and document them. Also, these games do have the potential to show us the conflicts of this era, as we have proof that conflicts and wars did take place in the Pokemon world at several points in the past. Now, of course, a full-scale war most likely won't happen, but the possibilities for conflicts with other people on the region that have may settled on the region, before even you were there, is a possibility, like indigenous people of this region, as well as a conflict against the Pokemon themselves on this island, where, they want to keep their region of Sinnoh safe away from these humans, and you're going to be the one trying to do the opposite. So yeah, maybe those are the things we should expect from our journey here. So the point I'm trying to get to is that if you're expecting to get your normal Pokemon journey in these games, and you're expecting to simply have a Pokemon game with an open world so you can go to gyms and beat them and get to the Elite Four, then I think you'll have to stop right in your path right now, and I'm gonna tell you that you shouldn't be expecting that, and you won't be getting that. These games are not that. These games aim to bring more of an adventure and story that is the polar opposite of what you're used to when it comes to Pokemon. They are here to give you a brand new look at Pokemon, a more wild and explosive Pokemon that doesn't have the set rules for how things work just yet, right? There is no rules, right? Because the whole concept of these things don't exist yet. Will you run into other trainers in the world? Most likely. Will they be actual trainers? Well, perhaps not, perhaps yes. We don't really know. We'll have to wait and find out, but the concept of a trainer doesn't exist yet, so who knows? Maybe they are warriors, maybe they're soldiers, maybe they're samurai. You don't really know, because that's the whole point. This concept of Pokemon doesn't really exist in this world even just yet. And one big point that I want to make, and a bit of a speculation of my own, is that perhaps our job in these games is actually to develop these future IDs of the gyms and the Elite Four and all this. Maybe we will see how the IDs and concepts of gyms and Elite Four get developed throughout these games, and how they start shaping the region as we are playing through and exploring it. See, this is the sort of game that can easily be compared to something like Breath of the Wild and Genshin Impact. Not because just because it's an open world game and it's lush and beautiful and green, but those games in general though are also games that work in a similar manner in terms of other aspects of this game, which I will talk about further in the future as well when I go about these games in a comparison more thoroughly. But to give a bit of a general idea, in Genshin Impact, for example, you start your journey, and through your journey you basically learn about other stories and new things as you're exploring, and then as you start off the game, you do a bunch of story elements in the starting zone before you head right out into the vast world and get to explore basically everything without stopping, and you can just go exploring everything. And the only thing stopping you within Genshin Impact is your own adventure rank, or your character rank, so to say, which limits what quests you can do. So for Pokemon Legends Arceus, I think we can look at it in a similar way. You will go through quests in the beginning, and then they will let you out into the world to explore and catch Pokemon, as well as leveling up yourself and your Pokemon, and of course, you as your individual character, to unlock more story and more quests and adventures to go on, and along the way discovering and developing these future things like gyms perhaps, and even Pokemon centers being developed within the story as you're playing it. Perhaps somebody's building something called a Pokemon Center because they realized, hey, we need a place to heal Pokemon, and maybe we'll meet the first ever Nurse Joy. The original Nurse Joy might be here, being like, hey, I opened the Pokemon Center because I want to be able to heal Pokemon and keep them safe. So maybe we'll see that as a thing developed here, and maybe gyms become a thing because people decide, hey, I want to test my strength, so I created this thing I call a gym where Pokemon can train, but also you can come and battle me, and if you defeat me, then guess what, I'll give you a reward. So those things might be developed as we go through the journey in these games. I think another good comparison, and probably the best comparison that we can do when it comes to this game in terms of other franchises, is if like you played The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and then you played something like, I don't know, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. With Pokemon, you can kind of expect a similar thing there, because those two games are so different. They're set in the same world, they are mainline Legend of Zelda games, but they're very different in how they do gameplay and even storytelling. With Pokemon, you can expect a similar thing, where Legends Arceus will aim to give you more freedom and also probably more like story to explore and lore and fun adventuring, whereas the other mainline games like Generation 9 or even Generation 8 Sword and Shield will aim to give you that straightforward classic Pokemon journey, right? Of defeating the gyms, getting the championship, all that stuff. And you will need to look at Legend Arceus a bit different, as a totally different beast, and a totally different approach and idea for Pokemon than what you're used to. And if I was to compare Pokemon Legends Arceus to the closest Pokemon game that it's close to, I would actually say it's closest to Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Pokemon Colosseum, which were not your standard Pokemon journey. They try to do things differently, with a whole new approach to gameplay and everything, not giving you the same old Pokemon straightforward classic adventure, but rather trying out a new way of doing things. So what I want to tell you is to expect a similar approach for these games, or for this game, the same way they did with XD Gale of Darkness. Like that sort of approach. Not that it's gonna be like exactly the same with all the features and stuff, because remember, these games will not have features because they don't exist yet. Those features don't even exist as a concept in this world yet. What I'm rather trying to say is, as a game in its approach, you will have to look at XD Gale of Darkness as a good example of what you should expect. Not your standard Pokemon journey, not your standard straightforward journey, but a different approach totally. So yeah, the conclusion for Pokemon Legend Arceus and why it is in the game you are supposed to be expecting the way you think, is that it is a different approach for a more comparable game to like XD Gale of Darkness, rather than something like Sword and Shield, which are your standard journey. This game is going to be disappointing to a lot of people, I would say. I think this game is gonna really change how we need to look at Pokemon, because you need to be ready to be disappointed if you're expecting this game to be your standard journey, because it won't be. This game is gonna do things differently. It's going to be more about the adventure, more about catching the Pokemon in the world in a more unique way, in a more realistic manner. That's what this game is gonna aim to do, rather than giving you your standard journey. And I think this is a good thing, because Pokemon has needed change for a long time, and I understand why they decided to jump back in time, because doing a Pokemon game with a full-on open world with gyms everywhere in the manner that we want them to do it will take a bit longer. This game clearly has not been in development as long as we might think, and I think that the next generation may be closer to what we want it to be, which is a full-on open world Pokemon game set in the future with all the kind of things we know about Pokemon, like the gyms, Elite Four, all these things being there as well. But I think that this game is a testing run. This is a way for them to to test out these concepts, this idea of adventuring in Pokemon without any restrictions, going around doing whatever you want. This is their way of testing out the waters, seeing what people feel about it, and if it's going to be a good way to do things. That's what Pokemon Legends Arceus is.